I can only say, like for John P. Williamson and Stephen R. Riggs, they were highly respected by the Indian people. And there are those who follow traditional religion, of course, who really do not like John P. Williamson and Stephen R. Riggs, because they did represent a break-off from traditional religion to being Christian, and where you had to give up most of your rituals and powwows and things like that.
There was a project here that I started called Dakota Letters, where we translated some of the letters that the men wrote when they were imprisoned at Davenport. They were written in the Dakota language and had been in the Minnesota Historical Society for over 100 years, and nobody ever read them. They were just in a box. And I remember one of the letters said that one of the men said, "We set aside our Dakota ways, but we will always be Dakota."
We as Indian people, we have a Christianity at that time that was good. We put God first, but the other Indian ways are second.
Many of the families down there were unhappy because they were still under government jurisdiction, and they wanted to have their own farmland and become homesteaders. About 21 families left Santee and came up to the bend in the river here near Flandreau and formed a community it was actually a Christian community in March of 1869.
They became the first Native American homesteaders in America. They established the first Native American Christian colony in the world.
And they built a small church in 1871. It became too small when more families came and joined the community here and joined the church here. In 1873, they built the first Presbyterian church. That's the church here. We believe this was the entire congregation, and we don't have a date on this photograph, but the man right in the middle, sitting there with a hat, that's my great-grandfather, John Eastman.
By that time, we were now a presbytery, so we had the authority to ordain. These former prisoners of war went out with enthusiasm to spread the gospel. Churches were organized and established under the leadership of these men who had no formal training, but God used them, and God enabled them.
One of the first missionaries coming into Pine Ridge was my wife's grandfather from Flanders, South Dakota.
My grandfather, Sam K. Weston, came as a missionary to Porcupine. Well, when they first came, they had a church there in Allen. That's where they came. Then when they moved to Porcupine, there was a manse there that they moved into. My grandfather always stayed in that manse and worked till passed on.
Well, the duties back then is probably about the same as they are today. A pastor becomes all trades, I guess. I know I've heard stories about back in his time and the old pastors where they didn't get salaries. The congregation brought, like they'd bring food or chicken or something like that once in a while to the pastors. So it was a very difficult time. But they were very active back in those days, and in the homes they had services, ladies' aid and this type of thing, which was very strong back then in the church.
It's really a labor of love. But these are dedicated people. They serve their congregations well, and frankly, I'm very touched by their service.
We talk to him in Indian. We sing to him in Indian. We read his words in Indian. God comes first. That's the way we looked at Christianity.